Joining us now to break down some of the mandates in the first 100 days of the Biden administration is Withe. He's the national director at the conservative think tank, the Freedom Foundation. So, Aaron, I know that you have voiced some objections with the mask mandate. It's the first one that, for example, President Biden now says that he's going to implement in the first 100 days in office. What are your objections to that?
Well, thanks for having me, Alex. One, it's totally condescending and overreaching to have a president like Biden mandate that we wear masks on federal property, which is what his mandate would be limited to. It's basically him saying, I don't trust you to take care of yourselves and your families, so I'm going to do it for you. It's a dangerous rhetoric coming out of the White House. And furthermore, we have individual liberty in this country. I mean, and we shouldn't take that for granted. And Biden's really trying to impose on that by overreaching what he does. And I watched the inauguration earlier today. The whole mask thing is just virtue signaling. You've got Biden shaking hands with these guys and hugging people. Do they really believe that a mask is going to protect them from COVID when they're in those types of situations? I mean, they can't, I don't think. So, yeah, it's total virtue signaling coming out of the White House.
And I noticed that, too. There wasn't too much social distancing, whereas in the past, what we saw today would have been deemed to be a super spreader event or something of that nature. So I think you're right on to say that sometimes there is a double standard when it comes to applying these rules. And that's the whole problem. Because, for example, when we look at mandates or lockdowns, for example, that's really what people have concerns with. It's the idea that small businesses in this country, they can't close down their businesses, whereas maybe some of the people in power, for example, they can go a couple of weeks without a paycheck, but they're not the ones doing it to begin with. So is this representative of a bigger issue that may be taking place, the idea that government control may be creeping more into the lives of everyday people?
Yeah, you nailed it, Alex. It absolutely is. And government, as far as I'm aware, haven't missed a paycheck during any of these lockdowns, yet we have private sector businesses. Those are the ones that have been having to shut down. You know, you and I in California and Washington, we've had to deal with our favorite restaurants closing down, our favorite gyms closing down, yet governments remained open. Their biggest inconvenience is sometimes they've had to work from home. It's what the liberals care about. They care more about government than they do about private sector businesses and individuals. And that's what President Trump really cared about, was helping businesses and helping individuals. Biden, I believe, will be the exact opposite.
And, you know, there are many conservatives, too, that are looking back at the events on January 6th, condemning them, as they should be, as I have seen almost every single conservative do, except for maybe a couple nutcases who have since been banned from Twitter or something like that. But now there are many people on the left who are using that event to say we need to restrict speech. We need to increase surveillance of Americans here at home. We need to implement new laws that would allow us to infiltrate groups here in the United States. And I want to issue warnings to those people that it's about the precedent that is being set. It's not necessarily about those individuals who maybe should be held accountable, but it's about the precedent. Do you agree with that approach?
Yeah, you're right, Alex. And where were these people months ago when private sector businesses were the ones being looted and having their windows smashed? You didn't hear from them then. That's because these people care more about government. They care more about the capital than they do about businesses that people have spent their whole lives trying to bring up and prosper. And again, I think that's the difference between what a Trump White House is or was and what a Biden White House is going to be. They're going to care more about government, and Trump certainly cared more about private sector businesses and individual liberties.
And it's something that I don't think we're going to appreciate until maybe a couple months, if not years down the road. But it's the idea that President Trump did resist that power grab. People on both sides of the aisle were calling for him to do a national lockdown, a national mandate, things of that nature. And for a politician to resist those types of calls, it's something that should be appreciated, because many politicians around the world or throughout human history would not have shared that same approach. And I think it's something that we should be grateful for, because it might not always be here. But Withe, I appreciate you coming on the show tonight and breaking down these mandates. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.